It truly deserves its reputation as one of the world's great aircraft. The hugely successful F-18 Hornet hits the sweet spot between high performance and financial bottom line. Despite its brilliant design, this plane almost never saw production. I'm Paul Max Moga, and I've flown some of the most sophisticated planes ever built. And I'm here on the flight line at Naval Air Station Oceana in Virginia Beach, Virginia, home to 17 strike fighter squadrons of F-A-18 Hornets and Super Hornets. This lightweight fighter fills a variety of roles: air superiority, fighter escort, reconnaissance, suppression of enemy air defenses, forward air control, close and deep air support, and day and night strike missions. On this episode of Great Planes, we'll tell the amazing story of the F-A-18 Hornet.
I'm Lieutenant Mike Seegers with the VFA 136, the Nighthawks. What we have behind here is a brand new Lot 30 F-18E Super Hornet. We've been flying for about 4 years now.
Well, Mike, I appreciate you taking a couple minutes to explain the Hornet to us. Tell us what model we're at right here. What version of the Hornet are we at?
This is the F-18 Echo Super Hornet. That's the single-seat version of the Super Hornet. That's a Lot 30, just rolled off the line in January.
So this plane is pretty much brand new.
Brand new, and it's very new for Navy guys to see that. Most of the guys that have been around for 15 or 20 years have never seen a brand new airplane, so this is a pretty neat thing.
Its story begins in the 1950s. America, locked in a Cold War, struggles with the fact that Russia no longer lags behind American aeronautical design. In fact, Russia's remarkable post-war developments include a series of bomber designs that shocked the NATO allies, just as their earlier MiG fighters had done. This is the Russian Tu-16, which NATO names the Badger. An extremely advanced aircraft for its time, it gets its power from only 2 engines, the largest and most powerful jet of its day. The Badger's full swept wing, high speed, and substantial bomb load make it a major threat. But its limited range confines its use only to potential European conflicts. No such constraint hinders the Tu-95, NATO designation, the Bear. This design proves a shrewd investment for the Soviet military, its sole user for over 30 years. Its jet-driven propeller enhances its range enough to reach North America from Russian bases. But nothing creates a larger strategic threat to the U.S. than the M4 Bison. The Bison combines pure jet speed with the invasive range of the Bear. When Western planners discover the existence of the Bison in the 1950s, they don't know it isn't in wide production. They respond to the potential threat of this fast, high-flying craft by developing a different kind of weapon, air-to-air rockets. Early Super Sabres, Delta Daggers, some Voodoos, and Northrop Scorpions get fitted with these non-guided rockets designed for high speed, high climb, and long range, all dedicated to responding to the perceived Russian threat. If conflict comes, jet fighters from Air Defense Command can deploy thousands of rockets to provide a wall of destruction against the new Russian aircraft. The arms race has begun. Before long, the massive, simple, unguided weapons give way to much larger and more sophisticated technology. Some missiles, now guided, even contain nuclear warheads. Fired well ahead of the launching fighter, these missiles create a ferocious nuclear barrier unrivaled by conventional rockets. The aircraft firing these missiles have to fly fast and high, but because they're intercepting the enemy bombers rather than engaging them, they no longer have to be light or maneuverable. This change in tactics spawns a whole new breed of fighter plane, the interceptor. But production of this new breed of aircraft results in some unintended consequences. The shift away from dogfighters leaves the Air Force deficient during the Southeast Asian conflict. The Delta Daggers, perfectly suited to protect American airstrips and other installations from North Vietnamese bombers, sit idle when no attacks come. And they prove useless in the scenarios that do play out. Vietnam is a different war, and the U.S. Air Force confronts aircraft that fit the older definition of fighters: highly mobile, fast, and efficient, in some ways almost primitive. Against Western technology, North Vietnamese MiGs hold their own in dogfights. The U.S. F-4 Phantom can dish it back. Very fast and extremely powerful, it fires several types of guided missiles deployed by a second crew member. The Phantom proves the best the U.S. can offer against the agile MiG, but it isn't ideal. The F-4 is originally designed as a Navy interceptor, not a true dogfighter. Losses are heavy on the U.S. side. Out of the 5,195 built during 1958 to 1981, 761 were lost in the Vietnam War. Even before the conclusion of the conflict, the Navy searches for an interceptor better suited for air-to-air combat. It finds its answer in the Grumman F-14 Tomcat. With limited carrier space, the Navy seeks the most versatile hardware money can buy. The Tomcat uses variable swept wings for flexibility, providing agility despite its size. Armed with the Phoenix missile, it achieves a range the Air Force has only dreamed about. Its flexible design enables it to carry the same weapons the Phantom uses over Vietnam, plus a cannon for dogfighting. While the Navy goes for a multi-purpose replacement for the F-4, the U.S. Air Force commissions a dedicated air superiority fighter, the McDonnell Douglas F-15 Eagle. With a more defined mission, the Eagle needs no second crew member or variable swept wing. It combines enormous speed and range with agility and heavy firepower. The F-15 Eagle remains the best single fighter concept ever built. Fighter design is as much a question of philosophy as technology. Russian defense hinges upon large numbers of clever, basic planes like the MiG-21. The fighter that scored so well in Vietnam still provides value for the money, and Russia produces many of them. In the U.S., the emphasis has always been quality over quantity. But when confronted by the sheer number of Russian fighters, the U.S. begins to have second thoughts. The 1996 movie Independence Day, starring Will Smith, features 3,978 computer-generated F-18 Hornets. In the early 1970s, many of the supporting NATO forces fly the Lockheed F-104 Starfighter, a plane that's very effective but approaching retirement age. The U.S. Air Force never invests heavily in the starfighters, but U.S. allies snap them up, their answer to the lightweight, value-driven Russian MiG. The F-104's popularity reveals a large market that Western manufacturers vie for. The French, with their Mirage F-1E, offer a sophisticated, lightweight fighter that delivers value for the money. Likewise, the Swedes present the Saab Draken, a technologically brilliant design. But the two European concepts have to do battle with U.S. manufacturers. General Dynamics, out of the fighter business for some time, wants back in. They're determined to win contracts from NATO countries looking to replace aging starfighters, and to fill America's need for a more economical fighter than the F-15. The number of new planes would have to at least match the Soviet force, which justifies spending millions on a cutting-edge design. Spin testing shows the spectacular soundness of the prototype. From this design, the manufacturer offers up a dedicated single-seat fighter version, which becomes the F-5 Tiger. This low-cost and high-performance aircraft generates many foreign sales, but fails to wow U.S. buyers. Still, the overall U.S. and European markets for fighters provides a windfall for Northrop. The company continues to refine the F-5 for even more maneuverability, extending the area where the forward section of the wing joins the fuselage into a forward straight. In the early 1970s, this sophisticated concept joined some other T-38 legacies, like the two light engines to produce Northrop's next design, the F-17 Cobra, prototype designation YF-17. The Cobra is larger than the F-5 and offers other advances like the twin-tail concept, which provides increased stability at high angles of attack. Northrop hopes the model's distinct lineage, good design, and company reputation will trounce its rival, General Dynamics. In the high-stakes battle for government contracts, this is all-out war. Though the plane lacks full fly-by-wire capabilities, Northrop hopes for big sales overseas. With that commitment, they can retool their California factory, bringing an end to F-5 production. Northrop also pins its hopes on a lucrative U.S. Air Force contract, if it can beat its arch-rival, General Dynamics. In April 1974, the press, dignitaries, and members of the military gathered to see the YF-17. Northrop feels confident as it unveils the new fighter. And for good reason. They've created a great plane at a good price. And both the U.S. Air Force and NATO allies recently increased their estimation of how many fighters they need. At stake is the biggest peacetime Western fighter deal ever struck. Of course, the people at General Dynamics are thinking the same thoughts about their new YF-16 Fighting Falcon. The contest is settled in a head-to-head competition at Edwards Air Force Base in California. Since 1982, more than 1,458 F-18s have been produced for the U.S. Navy and U.S. Marine Corps, and for the armed services in Canada, Australia, Spain, Kuwait, Switzerland, Finland, and Malaysia. In June of 1974, the YF-16 and YF-17 prototypes go head-to-head, competing for a government contract for a new air combat fighter. A vigorous fly-off pushes each plane to its limits in a test of engineering skill, mechanical prowess, and, as it turns out, business savvy. Both aircraft handle superbly. The contest is razor close. But at the end of the day, the U.S. Air Force awards the contract to General Dynamics for its YF-16. One reason is cost. The YF-16's engine, though more expensive, shares components with the earlier F-15, making service skills and spare parts readily available. General Dynamics takes an enormous gamble on the new F-16 Fighting Falcon. Even before the contest, the company has retooled for the new jet, an incredible risk that gives them a winning angle, the promise of fast delivery. As for the YF-17, its air brake reveals a deficiency, nose wheel liftoff speeds are too high, and the takeoff roll is too long. The judges also question the fighter's range. Though a superb jet with excellent lineage, the YF-17 simply can't compete against General Dynamics' winning entry. There's room for only so many fighters, and the F-16 Fighting Falcon scoops the domestic and export markets. The YF-17 flies off into history, just one more design that doesn't quite make it. General Dynamics wins the European market by offering NATO countries a share of the aircraft's production within their own borders. The company exports the technology they develop in Fort Worth to Holland, Belgium, and other European nations to produce identical aircraft thousands of miles apart. Going one step further, General Dynamics garners more sales outside the NATO bloc. Several F-16s are slated for Iran, but when there is a sudden change of regime, the plane gets delivered to Israel. Serving the Egyptian Air Force, the ever-versatile F-16 develops into a very successful ground attack aircraft. This Danish twin-seat version demonstrates the agility of General Dynamics' high-tech solution to the lightweight fighter and attack requirement. Fortunately, the U.S. Navy has a different set of parameters. Their old, reliable F-14 Tomcats still do the job, but they do it at high cost. In the meantime, the A-7 Corsair II attack aircraft is nearing the end of its service life. Developed from a dedicated fighter, the A-7 Corsair II has seen considerable action over Vietnam as a dependable strike bomber. But by the 1980s, they begin to wear out. And some of the F-4 Phantoms serving the Marines need economical replacements. Like the Air Force, the Navy starts looking for a cost-effective, versatile fighter jet. And the single-engine F-16 with the lightweight undercarriage isn't it. McDonnell Douglas, which manufactures the F-4, sets out to fill the Navy's needs. It isn't the first time. Since World War II, McDonnell has supplied the Navy, starting with the Phantom I, the Navy's first fighter jet and the first design McDonnell produces. With the Phantom I, McDonnell impresses the Navy with its ability to produce aircraft specifically tailored to the demands of different services. After the Phantom comes the Banshee, the same shape but with a lot more power. Shown here flying in front of the Phantom I, the Banshee is a success, cementing McDonnell's reputation as a world leader in fighter aircraft design. In the Korean conflict, the Banshee offers aircraft carrier commanders a formidable ground attack weapon. McDonnell produces more than 900 Banshees in its St. Louis plant. And after the Banshee comes a single-engine swept-wing plane. With this one, McDonnell pulls back on the power but scores another hit. The plane gets mass-produced as a fighter and reconnaissance aircraft. Its arrival heralds a new chapter in aerial warfare, the use of guided missiles by the Navy. With a quarter-century of military service under its belt, McDonnell unveils its crowning achievement, the F-4 Phantom II. The Navy and Air Force snap up more than 5,000 of them, and McDonnell grows prosperous enough to acquire the long-established Douglas Company. In the late 1970s, McDonnell Douglas gets involved in Northrop's languishing F-17 project. They see the airframe's potential and want to bring it back to life by fixing the bugs and honing the design to fit the Navy's demands for fighter and attack planes. Though based on the bones of the old YF-17, the new version needs thousands of modifications. For Navy use, the wings have to fold to fit on a carrier. The plane needs more range, more powerful engines, and a totally upgraded cockpit in a completely redesigned front section. McDonnell's St. Louis plant builds the forward section and wings, but the bulk of the fuselage and skin come from Northrop's Hawthorne factory, using the original F-17 construction jigs. Thus, two relative latecomers to the aviation industry, barely in existence before World War II, come together for an extremely ambitious project. As of today, just a single F-18 Hornet costs $57 million. Plane manufacturers McDonnell Douglas and Northrop, once fierce competitors, come together to salvage the fledgling YF-17 project. The result is the F-18 Hornet. But before manufacturing begins, an advanced flight simulator puts the aircraft through its paces, accurately predicting its performance and suggesting tweaks to the design. The F-17, redesignated the F-18 and renamed the Hornet, moves ahead to the prototype stage. Naval officers and McDonnell engineers study a wooden mock-up of the first F-18 Hornet. The model illustrates what naval crews might expect of the real thing before expensive fabrication begins. As a bonus, the YF-17 prototype gives pilots a sense of what the F-18 might feel like, only with a lot less power. But the new F-18 still hasn't hit the St. Louis production line. The Navy insists on one structural change: a more robust undercarriage to absorb the shock of hard landings and abrupt stops on a moving carrier deck. But this isn't the only modification. So Mike, the Navy obviously needs to be able to stage its aircraft from aircraft carriers. Tell me how an aircraft that would have to be launched and recovered on a carrier would have to have some different design features put into it.
This has to be built really strong so we can stop in just a matter of feet. The other is the landing gear. If you look at an Air Force jet, the landing gear is not going to be nearly as bulky. It's not going to weigh nearly as much. it kind of weighs the airplane down a little bit. So we've got to be able to get as much thrust out of our airplane as possible. But the airplane's got to be built durable too, so we can't really use a lot of thrust vectoring. So, but we will use the variable geometry exhaust to get as much thrust as we can out of the engine. The wings also need to be able to fold. And to be able to put high G loads on and fold the wings, you're going to have to build the wings, again, heavy and strong.
Yeah.
So we can fit all the airplanes on the aircraft carrier. So again, we got to get as much thrust as we can out of our engine.
So with the folding wings and the landing gear and all the other modifications, it basically makes it suitable for carrier operations, but doesn't necessarily make it the lightest aircraft or aerodynamically perfect, but you got to do what you got to do to put a jet on an aircraft carrier.
Yeah, there's a little bit of compromise between how much punishment the jet can take and how well it can perform, especially at high altitudes. But at low altitudes, it seems like the airplane's able to accelerate just as well as any other.
Despite all of McDonnell's modifications, the F-18 retains Northrop's basic Cobra design. The F-18 is a derivative of the YF-17 design, but materializes as a bigger and more capable aircraft. That's no coincidence. Heights, wires, and joints from California align perfectly with their partners produced in Missouri. The result is a superb fighter aircraft that fills at least two Navy needs: fighter and attack plane. Declaring all systems go, the first of 20 pre-production F-18s roll out of the McDonnell Douglas production plant to face the toughest test of all. At last, the big day for the F-18, the Hornet, born from the ashes of Northrop's Cobra. Service representatives and other naval dignitaries examine the born-again fighter. But the real test is in the sky. Take it to the air for the first time, the F-18 delivers as promised. At the end of its debut performance, the Hornet lowers its heavy-duty gear for a graceful landing. Before any fighter goes into service, the pre-production models get pushed to their limits and beyond. Each one of the 20 pre-production aircraft has to pass a specific test before the actual Hornet gets to fly. Some get tested for high-speed maneuverability, others for weapons carrying and release, and another will face the grueling spin test, simulating a total loss of control. Here, the Hornet performs beautifully, quickly coming out of the spin and regaining control. An onboard computer tackles disorienting situations and sets the pilot straight. Will the computer stop you from over-G'ing this?
Yes, it will.
In all configurations?
The only way that you can over-G this airplane is if you press down on the G override switch.
You got a G override switch?
In case we need to pull like a little more than we need to. It's mostly for operational, but we have so many flight control surfaces. The Legacy has the same number of, or the same flight control system that we do. Ours are just bigger, but it'll coordinate every move that you make with the stick. Like even if you're at really low speeds, it knows what altitude you're at, how fast you're going, what the air density is, and whenever you move the stick, the airplane just calculates what it thinks that you want to do.
Yeah.
And it'll just perfectly coordinate the rudder, the flaps. The flaps move, the ailerons will move, and there's a couple of magic moves that you can do with this airplane.
Magic moves?
Yeah, that you probably can't do in the other, just because it's always perfectly coordinated.
Well, the computer can fly the plane better than you can. I mean, that most people, shudder when folks say that, but a computer that has the ability to manipulate each control surface independently can do more than any single pilot can do in an aircraft. Tests continue on the Hornet. Planes face the Air Force torture test, subjected to artificial weathering that represents years of exposure to extreme heat and cold. This F-18 gets tested on carrier landing and takeoff procedures on a land base. On an actual carrier, there's no margin for error, no second chance. Simulated catapult takeoffs and high angle of descent landings put the prototype F-18s through their paces. In heavy crosswinds, the computer control struggles to keep tons of high-tech equipment traveling in a straight line. On November 3rd, 1979, the F-18 finishes its sea trials after 32 successful takeoffs and landings from the carrier USS America. The F-18 Hornet needs only about 2,000 feet of runway for takeoff in its normal combat configuration without external tanks. After a battery of tests on land, the new F-18 Hornet must be put through its paces on a real carrier deck. On the 30th of October, 1979, Lieutenant Commander Dick Richards makes the first F-18 carrier landings. Prototype number 3 gets subjected to continual testing at sea, performing constant touch and goes. Finally, the ultimate challenge, a carrier landing at night, a test of the pilot as well as the plane. So, When it comes to the carrier landing, I mean, is it really as tough as everybody says? What is that really like?
Well, it just seems like it happens so fast. Honestly, during the daytime, if the weather's good and everything, it can be fun. With the boat moving and the airflow over the carrier so many different ways, it gets a little sporty. You never really know what's going to happen, so there's not any time to really just relax and just kind of fly. You're always doing something. It takes a lot out of you just a little bit at a time. During nighttime, though, it doesn't matter how good the weather is. I guarantee you there's not one single Navy pilot that enjoys that. I can't think of anything I hate more than landing on a boat at night.
But you got to do them. I mean, you got no other option.
Yeah, you have to do it, so.
The prototype F-18 torture testing tells the Navy what to expect from its new, economical, high-performance aircraft. In the F-18, McDonnell's clear understanding of the Navy's requirements and Northrop's brilliant YF-17 design have come together to produce a sophisticated fighter without compromise. After prototype testing, the Navy scraps plans to build separate attack and fighter F-18s. The single, versatile design will do it all. By November 1980, the Navy takes delivery of the first fully operational airframe, now the newly designated F-A-18. With great fanfare, the Hornet goes into commission. It's a proud day for the 1st Squadron to receive the F-A-18, and a proud day for the entire Navy. Two-seat versions of the F-A-18 help crews get familiar with the plane destined to become one of the most important aircraft in Western defense.
This is obviously a single-seat version. There's two-seat versions of both the Super Hornet and the Legacy Hornet. What's the primary difference or the reason behind those two different models?
For doing the FAC-A roll, which is like the forward air controller, airborne, that's the guys that circle around for doing things in the desert, and they'll spot where your target is and tell you where you need to go. Those airplanes have to be two seats, so that's the main thing. The person in the back of the aircraft, in that case, will have a lot of the situational awareness to talk people's eyes onto targets and things of that nature.
And how about the A and the B model Hornets? What were the two-seat models in the Legacy? Were they just trainers?
Yeah, for the Bravo, yes it was. And then the Alpha, they were having a lot of problems with the engine, so that version wasn't around for very long. So nobody has the Alpha model anymore.
It's gone.
The Marine Corps has equal reason to celebrate the delivery of their first F-A-18s, coming to replace the Corps' aging F-4 Phantoms. When the F-A-18 goes fully operational, Marine and Navy pilots fly identical aircraft for entirely different missions, a testament to the Hornet's versatility.
So Mike, I know you've been asked this question before, but we got to know, what is it actually like to fly this plane?
It's really neat. The airplane can perform really well, especially down low. It can accelerate so quickly that, I mean, you'll be going slow and then you want to go fast and it'll pin you to the back of your seat. And then if you want to go up high, you can fly high and you can fly really slow as well. Where other planes would probably go out of control, like it's almost impossible to make this plane go out of control. You can go.
I'm telling you, man, knock on wood. So basically as a fighter pilot, you got no complaints?
No, none at all.
The high-tech fly-by-wire system, the twin engines, and the sturdy construction all come together in one superior model that represents the Royal Australian Air Force's front line of defense for years to come. After Spain joins NATO, it also invests heavily in the F-18 after the Hornet bets the F-16 in a fierce competition. Northrop and McDonnell must have derived a great deal of pleasure from that.
In 1986, the U.S. Navy's famous Blue Angels flight demonstration team replaces the A-4F Skyhawk II with the F-A-18 Hornet. Commissioned in April of 1946, the Blue Angels were developed to showcase naval aviation and boost Navy morale. Each year, the Blue Angels showcased their talents between March and November, giving more than 70 performances throughout the United States. During their routine, 6 F-A-18 Hornets split into 2 groups. Blue Angels 1 through 4 move into the famous diamond formation, while Blue Angels 5 and 6 break into lead and opposing solos. Throughout the show, these 2 groups will alternate maneuvers, the diamond staying low and slow, performing mainly loops and barrel rolls in formation, while the solos astound the crowd by flying many of their maneuvers just under the speed of sound. The F-A-18s undergo significant modifications before they fly as part of the Blue Angels. The weapons are removed and replaced with a tank filled with smoke oil used in demonstrations. A spring system is added to the control stick, allowing the pilot more precise control of the aircraft. Just to maintain level flight during the standard performance formation, 40 pounds of pressure fights against the pilot when using the control stick.
After a difficult start and a narrow defeat against the F-16 several years earlier, the Cobra, transformed into the Hornet, has arrived. With its newest design model, it has surpassed its original mission to play the hardest role of any fighter plane, a Navy fighter. By any standard, the F-A-18 is a great plane, a true winner, a survivor.